Hey YouTube, Shuken Shinobi here with the review of the Power Rangers Samurai Bull Megazord. So this is the supposed last of the large Megazord releases, unless Bandai or Saban throws a new bot into the mix. But we'll see what happens there. But this is the last in the pieces to make the Gigazord, which is basically the standard Ultrazord formation for the series, just under a new tagline. So, it comes packaged in the Megazord mode, so I figured I would start with it just because it makes sense. So here we have the Bull Megazord in the Megazord mode. Articulation-wise, it's basically a standard Megazord. You have movement here in the arm, and that is it. No head movement or anything like that. The wheels down here at the bottom do spin very, very well, I might add. And these are two discs, the Bullzord disc and then the Gigazord disc. So I will go ahead and pop those off and show those in the spin sword real quick. So here's the Bullzord disc. Let me refocus that. Oops. So there's that, and then the Gigazord disc. Most of these are just in the background shifts. So there is that. Just because I never really commented on it, I really do like the spinning discs in the spin sword and the Shinken and stuff. I just really like that animation effect. I think that's really cool. So anyway, there really isn't too much to go over with the Bull Megazord in this mode because he doesn't really do anything. As an alternate method, you can raise this up and then slot the disc into that peg that you can't see because it's off camera. And then push it down, and then you have an attack mode. So you got that going on. But really, that's about all it does on its own. As for a comparison with the Japanese version, it's just way too big to fit in my camera. So, I'm going to narrate over some photographs that I took. So, here is the Bull Megazord in comparison to Mogyuudaioh, the Japanese release.
So as you can see, there just really isn't too big of a difference between the American release and the Japanese release. The American one's a lot more streamlined, as you can tell, with the spread out legs and just the overall humanoid shape compared to Mogyuudaioh. And I do also like the fact that it is, in fact, more streamlined. It just ends up looking a lot better. Another thing I do like is the fact that the gun looks a lot bigger in his hands than Mogyuudaioh's hands. I think that's a nice touch, too. The only thing you're really losing out of having the Bull Megazord over Mogyuudaioh is the size factor and the motorized gimmick, since the Bull Megazord does not have that. However, outside of that, you really aren't missing too much. I have to give Bandai props for this one. I think they did a really, really good job.
Alright, so yeah, like I said earlier, there just really isn't too much to go over other than just aesthetics, and you can't really comment too much about aesthetics. But I just overall really like the way that this translated and the way it looks, even if it is a much smaller toy. So to get him into his bull mode, pop this off. It is pretty much just dismantling him. Pop off his arms, fold his little head in, and then lay him down just like that. And then what you're going to do is you can take the gun, attach it right here. Flip these missile launcher racks up, and then these slots correspond with the chest piece here. So you're going to want to put this one over here, and these just peg right into that socket right there. And then this one pegs in right here. Just like that. So here you have the Bull Megazord in its Bull mode. It does have the wheels for the discs right here, wheels right there, and wheels right there. So this thing rolls very, very easy. And in fact, because this is a plastic covering on my mat board here, it doesn't have too much friction, so it just kind of slides around. But that's really neat as well. There is a couple nitpicks I have. In the Japanese release, as you'll see in a couple minutes, this was a cart, so it was a bull pulling the cart, which was a really neat idea considering that's how they, moved things back then. But just because this isn't a brick and the Bull Megazord actually does have two separate legs that are spread apart, which is something I like in the overall design, as I mentioned before, I just really wish they had included a joint in here somewhere to where it could close freely and actually make a coherent cart. Like basically even a bend right there that would just connect the two halves together. Something to make this a more coherent cart as opposed to just the way everything is situated here. One thing that the Mogyuudaioh had that this also has is the fact that this can hold the Megazord. I have it in the Claw Armor Megazord right now because that's where I'm going to start when I do the transformation. So just to prove a point, that does fit here too. So you can stand it on top of there and move it. There is a chance of it falling. You can lift these panels upward, just like you would for the eventual Gigazord transformation. And then plop him down in there too, and he stands a lot better. So you have the Claw Armor Megazord riding atop the Bull Megazord in Bull mode. Then obviously it can hold the Samurai Megazord a lot better, just because it's a little bit more coherently spaced. But there's that feature as well. So yeah, I like the way it looks, so let's go ahead and just do some comparison shots with Mogyuudaioh in its origami mode.
Again, not too much difference between the two. However, the Bull Megazord in its Bull mode just looks really bad. It mostly comes down to the fact that the robot mode is a lot more streamlined, and so instead of having the cool cart, like the bull pulling the cart motif, it ends up looking like the Bull Megazord was drunk and fell backwards and is now just rolling around. So, with the legs spread like that, the cart imagery is just kind of shot. But outside of that, it's pretty much the same from the bull aspect forward. A little bit of difference in the head and just the way the arms are overall looking. But really, it all boils down to the fact that that whole cart motif is just gone. Another thing is that the Samurai Megazord doesn't sit in there as well as I'd like compared to Shinkano in the Mogyuudaioh. So, yeah, I think it looks nice overall, and plus you can pull off this and have Mogyuudaioh pulling around the Bull Megazord, so that's always fun too. So outside of the whole cart thing, you really aren't missing too much besides the motorized gimmick again.
Alright, so the last feature this has is the ability to combine with the other toys. It doesn't combine with the Megazord itself, or the Claw Battlezord itself, or any of the auxiliaries by itself. However, it does function as the last piece for the Gigazord combination. So to get that, we want it in Bull mode. And actually, we don't really even need it in Megazord mode, I mean. So we'll just pop the gun off, keep that aside, pop his arms off, keep those aside. And then lastly, pop the discs off, keep this one, actually, just while we're here, attach this one to the base of the gun. It'll connect right there. And then put this one in that back slot that I was referencing earlier that you really couldn't see and still can't see because my camera just simply doesn't go that high. There we go. Just pop that right in there and keep that there. You're going to need that eventually. So this guy just does this completely weird thing to where he becomes like the skeleton. So you're going to want to fold him up like this. And you have that going on. And then I already had the pull out there of the Bull Megazord's head. So fold these parts down and it will look something along the lines of this. Just a very tall, lanky thing. So that's all you do for him. So we're going to go ahead and just kind of set him aside for now. And bring in the Claw Armor Megazord. I found it easiest to start with the claw armor formation just because that's the basis of it. So nothing changes down here. So I'm just going to go ahead and raise the camera since everything that changes is all in this upper region up here. Take off these, and these are actually going to go onto his head crests. So right where they go when he's in the Claw Battlezord formation, they go right up here on the head crest, and then fold those back up a little bit until they're rested against whatever they need to rest against. Just like that, make it not lopsided. So there we have that. Pop his arms off here. Set those aside, we're going to need those later. Pop off the turtle and ape zords. Set those aside. And really that's about all you have to change. Pop this off too, I forgot. And there, now that's all you really have to change. You do need this connector piece. That's at the bottom of Lion right here. So get your fingers in there and then fold that out like so. That should be okay. I can't really remember off the top of my head. But there you go. Everything is set for him. So what we're going to do is basically deck him out eventually. Not right now. My words are all over the place. So now let's bring in the battle cannon. And you're going to need to do some alterations to this thing as well. So let's move the Claw Armor Megazord out of the way. Bring in this thing. Take off all of the drills and this piece entirely. Take off all the drills. And I still hate this floppy bit right here. They could have included a connector right there to peg this into, but regardless. Take off the swordfish's fin, attach it to the back here like you would if you were doing the Samurai Battlewing. Pop that right in, and tilt this. I have it already tilted. It's supposed to be like this. Tilt that like that, and take the little crest piece and clip it onto the Beetlezord's little beak thing here. So there we go. You have that. This giant chunk is going to pop right in to this guy. So raise this all the way up. So take this thing and these pegs right here will plug in right here. And just peg those right in like so. So now he's good to go up there. So we're just going to kind of let him be. While we have him in the frame and everything, we might as well do this too. Take the Claw Megazord arm pieces. Flip those out. Put this one right here in this socket. And not make your Bull Megazord shrink. And then take this one and plug it into this slot right here. Just like that. They are on a slant when they're not supposed to be, but there's no real way for that ratchet joint to work any other way. So you're going to have to deal with that whole slant thing going on. But that is really about all you can do for this guy right here. Actually, I just lied. We might as well do this while we're down here too. Take the turtle and the ape Zord pieces. Here's the thing. In the Japanese release, which you'll see when I do the comparison shots, these fold up into their origami modes and attach right here and right here. That's fine for the turtle, however the ape does not have the emblem mode. So, you're left with either following the instructions and doing this, which looks stupid, and then this is so wobbly because there's no sort of lock. It either stands straight until you move it, and then it falls, or it just kind of wiggles around and drags. So what I like to do is to customize a little bit. So Just because there really isn't any other coherent way to do this. You can convert this one into an arm too, and have them sitting something like this and having some weird arm feet things, which I guess is okay. But again, when you pick it up, they drag, and it just looks really derpy. Another thing you can do is to convert this into turtle mode. Just like that. Plop the turtle on here, just as a turtle. And then basically take this little monkey dude and convert her into the monkey, and then you have a monkey and a turtle attached to his legs, which is equally as derpy, I think. But that's a little bit closer to what the Japanese release was getting at. You can keep the turtle in emblem mode too, but I just figure if you're turning the monkey or the ape into an ape, might as well turn the turtle into a turtle. So I'm just going to leave it like that. Nitpick about that all you want, because that is my biggest nitpick about this thing. And have at it. So enough of him. Now let's focus on the rest of the bits for the Claw Armor Megazord that we need to accomplish over here. Bring him back into the frame, and like I said before, we're going to have to do all sorts of things to the upper region here. So spin him around to the back side. What we have here is this piece right here, which connects just like this. So take the, just like this rather, take the tiger head and just pop that right in. So pop that right in there, and then there we go. Take those sockets and pop them right into this joint, and then just have it rest all the way down here, just like that. So just have that rest just like that. It looks really stupid, but it'll make sense in the end, I think. So that is that. So flip him back around and back up. Take this piece right here. That's going to pop right in there. Take this middle section of Mogyuudaioh, this piece right here, of Mogyuudaioh, the Bull Megazord, and then pop that right in here, just like that. So there is his chest piece. Take the chest piece of the Claw Armor Megazord, and that is going to peg in right down here. There we go. So that's going to peg in right there. I really don't like this piece here, but it's really the only place to put it. That's where the instructions have you putting it anyway. I still don't like the fact that that's there. But take the arm pieces, flip these back forward. What you're going to do is put the drills on. So put the drills so the peg is facing outward. This is the right arm. And then take one of the little free drills, put that one right there. Then on the left arm, again, make sure the peg is facing outward. Because if you flip them around, you can have the peg facing the front, but then it just kind of looks derpy. So drills right there. Attach this arm right here. And then this arm right here. And we are almost done. So bring in the armor dude right here. And as you're going to see, he's going to need to, he's going to need to sit in these little ski things. And then the tiger face, as you can see right here, is going to go right into the crotch of the Bull Megazord. Yeah, I know, it's weird. So just kind of make sure everything kind of fits where it's supposed to go. These latches right here are going to flip around and peg into the latches on the side of the Lionzord. And those just help solidify everything in place. And so we are almost done. The last bit is to include the gun. So we're going to go all the way up there, take the gun piece, and then just put that right in here. And then this little peg right here is going to go into a hole that's on the base of the Bull Megazord's bullhead right there, which is actually a really tight fit and kind of hard to get itself into. But here we go. We are done with the Samurai Gigazord formation. So, yeah, way too big to fit in my camera frame. So, I'm just going to do a little pan and scan kind of thing. So, just overall, I really do like the way that it looks. It effectively looks exactly like Samurai How, but in a much smaller, a little bit more refined and compact form. So, I mean, if you really like Shinkenger and just don't have the space or money for the full Samurai How, because trying to collect that now will probably cost you more than $500. Meanwhile, this can be done within about 30, 60, 90, and then another 60. You can get all of this for about $150. Give or take, including coupons and sales and stuff. About between $150 to $200, depending on where you bought everything. And really, that's not too bad for a toy of this caliber. I mean, there is 11 individual Zords combined into this mess. And overall, I really just do like the way that everything is streamlined and just the way everything works together. Yeah, it is a giant cluster F, as people like to say, but I don't know. I really dig the clusters myself. The clusters of honey oats and stuff. No. But, I mean, overall, it's just not a bad job. People can complain all they want about the Samurai Zords, but I don't think they're that bad. Yeah, there's some functionality missing, but outside of that, I think they did a pretty good job on scaling these down for the American audiences. And for the cheaper price point, obviously. My biggest nitpicks are down here is the ski things. Again, the Japanese release was one chunk, so it was a platform that it sat in. And because of the way that the Bull Megazord's legs are shaped, these end up being little curved ski-like things instead of a platform. If they're a little bit straighter or more in tune to the shape of the Dragon and Bear Zords, I think it would have looked a lot better. But that is really the only nitpick I have, besides the fact that you now have a monkey and a turtle on the side of the Zord here. But yeah, again, that's really the only full nitpicks I have. Again, you can put these in the arm modes if you want to as well. You can probably rest them up against here to where they won't really fall all that much. But again, they look kind of weird. And I honestly sort of like the way that the monkey and the turtle look just kind of dangling off here. So yeah, one more look at the Gigazord. And you can do a couple other little things with this guy. He looks kind of monstrous from this angle. You can take the sword, and it does peg right into the hand. He can't hold it all that well because it gets stuck. So he does have to hold it really weird. And you can even take our good buddy, the Shark Zord. You can even take the Shark Zord, bring his peg out, and he can hold the Shark Zord as well. Something that Samurai How has trouble doing with the Kyoryu origami. So he can even hold the Shark Zord and be like a big, giant 12 origami Zord mess thing. But really, again, I'm going to say it, I just like the way it looks. So once again, let's just take a quick look at a comparison with Samurai How.
So once again, I have to give Bandai props because there aren't too many differences. In fact, the only difference in terms of overall transformation is the fact that the Ape Zord can't fold up. So you've got this dinky little arm standing there instead of the folded up emblem mode. From the side here, you can see the placement of the Octozord piece right there is a little bit different, but that doesn't really overall affect how it looks. And then, of course, there's the stylized differences that the Samurai Zords have compared to the Shinken origamis, or the Shinken origamis, rather, are just there in general, but again, don't affect the playability of the toy whatsoever. Yeah, the Samurai How formation looks a lot more impressive because of Mogyuudaioh's mass. It just looks really large and empowering, whereas the Gigazord is, like with all these toys, a lot more streamlined. And as you can see from this picture right here, there really isn't too big of a height difference between the two, despite the fact that the Gigazord is a lot smaller. So I have to give them props for that they did do an overall good job on translating Samurai How for the release over here.
So as you can see, it's just really, really small in comparison to Samurai How, but I think it still gives off that powerful Shogun, Overlord, Warlord, Samurai feel that Shogun or Samurai How gives off. And I just think they did a really good job, all things considered, on bringing this guy to the American audiences in a much cheaper and compact form. Really, in terms of features, the only thing you're missing out on with this is the motorized gimmick, which is something I didn't really care about in the first place. So, really, I feel like this is a very, very well done compensation for Samurai How. If you just simply can't afford it, this is a really, really good way to go. And I can't stress that enough. As much as people hate on the Samurai Zord line for not having the emblem mode and all of that, really, these are great toys for the price, and don't let the haters kind of influence you, because, I mean, they are really good toys overall, especially considering you're only paying $30 for a full Megazord as opposed to about 60 or 80 from Shinkano. So for people on a budget, these are perfectly fine representations of them, and really you can't go wrong. I like the formation. I think they did a great job, and I easily recommend the Bull Megazord, especially if you've completed everything up through this point. As a standalone toy, I can't particularly recommend the Bull Megazord, just because, well, it doesn't have enough features on its own, unlike the Claw Megazord and the Samurai Megazord. So, on its own, I can't recommend the Bull Megazord, but if you have all the other toys, the Bull Megazord is a great toy. It's a great standalone piece for people who can't afford Mogyuudaioh. Yeah, the scaling will be a little bit off, but in its Megazord mode, it does look pretty sleek, and it does look proportionally nice, unlike Mogyuudaioh. So I can recommend everything based on that aspect, so it's really kind of a pick and choose if you like. But yeah, if you have everything up through this point, definitely pick up the Bull Megazord to make this monstrosity. He's just awesome. That's all I can say. So you can check out shukanshobi.com for all the latest updates on my reviews, and of course check out Riders, Rangers, and Rambles.com, bringing you the latest Toku news in the craziest way possible. So take care and have a great one. Bye.